When you hear the sound of the bell, you know you're in the championship rounds with King Amin of Essex. So let's get to it. Gonna mix and match a recap with some current news and then take us onward and upward. But beginning with Leanna Cruz, Allentown, Pennsylvania's own. She's a super flyweight, 115-pound contender. Got a second round KO weekend over Amy Newert from Germany. Um, Positions her, I believe, number 3 in the WBA. Remember that title was recently vacated by former undefeated champion Clara Lescurat. Nonetheless, 115 is picking up some activity, and there seems to be some discrepancy as to whether or not Cruz is in position um, to fight the number 1 ranked contender, who is Regina Chavez. I'm hearing from a very good source. I mean, actually, directly from a friend of mine, a friend of yours, Jasmine Artiga, that she is in line to fight Regina Chavez. So both of these fighters, whether it be Cruz or Artiga, vying for that number 1 position. Now, this is tricky business because in the other side of things, right? And by the way, Artiga's number 8. All right, you have the number 5 ranked Lynn Sandstrom getting ready to face what, number 10 ranked Jocelyn Fernandez in a couple weeks, right? This is in March um for the WBA International. So there's lots of confusion, and this is why we hate when there's so many tiers of a particular belt. Just consolidate it, make it one WBA. Now, what should be happening is the WBA is vacant. Stephanie Hahn is fighting for the WBA vacant, right? So isn't this crazy? Absolutely ridiculous and deplorable, if you will, that the WBA has this many gold internationals, the vacant. I don't think they do interims because they give out all these other versions of it, but still, um, not to mention, all right, because that's the WBA, that's 115. We had a very good entry, and I've questioned the veracity of her as a fighter, but all that goes out the window. This woman is the real deal. I'm talking about Mizuki Hiruta. She is no joke. I love her style. She's a long type southpaw. Keeps fighters at the end of, and I'm biased towards that because I have a lean build, if you will. At least I try to keep it lean, but very long, but she doesn't use her guard as much as I would prefer. And because she's southpaw, she definitely falls victim to the straight right. But she is a counter machine, loves combinations. She looks like she's got good power, footwork, and so her movement is more of her defense than utilizing the guard, but makes her a very entertaining fighter. She also fought this past weekend, the same weekend as Leanna Cruz. So again, you got the WBA landscape looking a bit murky. But the WBO landscape, I'm hoping that Hiruta has more title defenses coming up, especially stateside. She signed to 360 Promotions, Tom Loeffler. So I'm expecting to see more of her. Very exciting fighter. But again, I wonder where she fits into this landscape because I got to check the rankings in the WBO. But I can imagine fights between Artiga and Cruz. Haruta, those are very exciting fights. So that being said, 115. Oh, and might I also mention Crystal Rosado Ortiz, professionally known as Crystal Rosado from Puerto Rico, also signed to Amanda Serrano. I believe it's Real Deal Promotions. Um, she made an entry into, guess what division? The Super Flyweight WBA. Yeah, she entered at number 12. So all of a sudden, finally, I've been waiting for this. Again, not too happy about what's happening with the WBA, but I've been waiting for 115 to heat up a bit, and it is doing so. Now, talking about heating up a bit, Caroline Dubois was heating up social media yesterday. Yes, she's coming off a very, very dominant technical draw, but she was winning that fight by far against Jessica Camara. And she's going to be featured on the Price Jonas-Price undercard. She did a couple things wrong. I gotta admit, I wouldn't be an adult if I didn't admit these particular missteps. I believe that Miss Caroline made, Caroline, if you will. Um, I love that she's, right back in action, but there's a nuance, if you will, that I think should have been approached with Terri Harper, and maybe the idea is to kind of draw her out, as my UK friends would say, saying that she ducked and it was this much money and that much money, but um, and her point about the amount of money, 200,000 or 250 or whatever it was, um, yeah, it may be substantial within women's boxing, but I don't know what Harper's getting paid, what she's not getting paid. But um, I think you kind of should maybe not infer that she's ducking you. Harper is entitled at this point in her career to kind of do business in this way. Now, if she turns down a fight after she or her promoter accepts an offer, that's fine. But I say that because you in turn actually did something similar with Beatriz Ferreira. So, you insist that Terri Harper is ducking because she turned down on, 6-week notice. And mind you, Chicken Metcalf would tell you that's a bag. Go and get it, right? Um, I'm just saying the pot can't call the kettle black. If you use the same ideology with Beatriz Ferreira and you say, hey, you know what? That fight could be worth $1 million. So let's not sell ourselves short right now. If you believe that about the Ferreira fight, which I can agree with that narrative, you guys, the last two at the end, right? Um, you kind of got to allow Terri Harper to call her shots in that same way. So yeah, but I like the fact that Dubois was also firing up Alycia Baumgardner because, quite frankly, Alycia Baumgardner is too inactive. The division is stalled because of her. Respectfully, not defending the titles, not vacating, not be willing to move up and say fight a Caroline Dubois. So 130 is stalling, and I believe that Baumgardner certainly could have benefited from that money. In short notice, she's always ready. I would have loved to see Baumgardner versus Dubois right now. Again, if you listen to what Ferreira is saying, we could have or could see the potential for, or maybe not if Dubois is fighting in March, but Ferreira was looking or suggest that an offer was made to fight Dubois on the Eubank Ben undercard. But we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. We'll also see. Again, I alluded to Dubois being on the undercard of Jonas-Price. This card is being billed as the relaunch of women's boxing with some great fights, some rumored and some should be more or less confirmed, especially with this limited time out. So let's go. My dark horse in the featherweight division, undefeated, Karriss Artingstall, right? Family business. She's the partner of Lauren Price. So I love to see that happening. She's in tough against Raven Chapman. Chapman coming off a loss to Sky Nicholson, WBC featherweight champ. Nonetheless, these two fighters, they're going to light it up at the pro level. Certainly have some amateur history, Team GB, high level boxing. Great fight on this card. And again, I think each fighter, I would have to check the rankings, but I'm sure they positioned themselves not necessarily for Nicholson. I mean, you got some other champions out there, maybe a fight with Serrano if she chooses to go to the UK. I don't really know what she's doing other than making big bags, but Nina Menke, IBF, so there's other options in the featherweight division that could be happening. Okay, so um, Fran Hennessey versus Shannon Courtenay. I love that fight. Fran Hennessey, she's got a lot of dog in her, just revealed herself the last fight, and I'm expecting her to continue that momentum, continue that aggression, and she has a bit of bad blood with Shannon Courtenay. Courtenay is a former world title contender at bantamweight, moving up. I didn't see much dog in her the last fight, but um, maybe the tension between these two could spark or elicit some sort of or Hennessey just dog walks it. And quite frankly, I hope I'm wrong, but I'm expecting Hennessey to dog walk Courtney. You heard it here first. You haven't heard it here first, but I'm sure you heard it already. That Cindy, um, I don't want to screw up her name, so let me get to, Cindy Ngamba, fighting out of Bolton by way of Cameroon, bronze Olympian, middleweight. She's going to be making her pro debut on this March 7th Jonas-Price card as well. In the middleweight division, she's got wins over just turned pro, Tam Thibault out of Canada, and Chantelle Reed out of I think she's from Derby. Yeah, so great amateur pedigree and should be bringing all of that. And the middleweight division is wide open. Listen, if you're gonna give, I'm calling it early or maybe not. Oh, I forgot she's campaigning at heavyweight. We'll talk about that later. But ain't nothing happened at middleweight. Clarissa Shields got all the belt at middleweight. Could we see a new contender emerging? I certainly would hope so. And those of us or you that are not familiar with Ngambia, you can do so on March 7th. All right. What else we got on that card? I think you may or may not have Emma Dolan versus Lauren Parker, Commonwealth and British champion at 115. That is Emma Dolan. She's undefeated with great wins. She's got some great wins over Shannon Ryan and Nicola Hopewell. So yeah, she's pretty well seasoned. Lauren Parker is 10-1, great fighter nonetheless at a domestic level. That's a high level matchup between Dolan and Parker. And Chloe Watson versus Jasmine Zapotoczna. Zapotoczna coming off of an upset win over Maisie Rose Courtney. Chloe Watson, undefeated still. Great domestic level fights. So it's pretty good stuff. I love that March 7th card shaping out to be very entertaining. Remember, that's going to be Boxer, Sky Sports, and Peacock, I believe. All right. What else we got? We got some talk about what Gabrielle Fundora is doing. Remember, she is what is she? The flyweight champion, undisputed flyweight champion. All right, doing absolutely fabulous out here. And she's got a 3-fight plan for this year. Very interested in seeing if she can execute, but it's a very solid plan. Her first opponent, she's looking to tick the box on the IBF mandatory. A lady by the name of Marilyn Badillo Amaya out of Mexico. She's 19-0-1 with 3 KOs. She's pretty cute. Never seen her fight, but you know, she's nice looking, easy on the eyes. What does it matter? It doesn't. But I'm just letting you know, okay? I'm also letting you know, the second fight on her plan is potential for the summer, could potentially be against, and I'm hoping she can pull it off, the WBC mandatory and the interim champ, Kania Enriquez out of Mexico as well. So if she fights Badillo, that would be in San Antonio. Maybe Enriquez would be in Texas or even in Mexico. So I like the marketing. That's what I mean. Fundora's she's got an idea to build herself up as a really like a world champion. I'm very proud of her for pursuing these types of bouts. Speaking of which, the last on her hit list, if you will, and a fight that should have happened a long time ago. Marlene Esparza, right? Former unified champion, but she's now the WBO and WBA mandatory. Fundora, if she's successful with the first two, obviously, she'd be looking to defend against Marlene Esparza. Now, if she does all 3 of those fights this year, hell of a year. Will she leave the division? Who knows? But after that, unless there's like a legitimate contender at Fly, I would expect her to vacate and then move on to bigger challenges. So, a great plan. Let's hope that she executes to keep see. And this is what I'm saying. This is how you keep a division thriving and not stagnant. So some of the other champions out there, undisputed and otherwise, should definitely take note. All right. Got some other notes in here about some other fights that should be happening. I mentioned the featherweight division. I mentioned Sky Nicholson. Sky Nicholson has mentioned that Tiara Brown, who's also coming off of a win, I kind of saved the best for last. Coming off a win the same night, also on the same card as Leanna Cruz over, adorable veteran. We want to see the Nicholson Brown fight. Nicholson saying that Tiara Brown has lost her pin, hasn't signed a contract. After all this time, I can imagine that Tiara Brown is eager to make this fight happen. So I'm assuming we're going to get the announcement, unless God knows whatever. But if this fight don't happen, we got to move on somehow. We got to find a way to move on. I'm not trying to diminish Tiara's opportunity, but sometimes your back's going to be against the wall and you're not going to get certain creature comfort. So we want to be fair and all this other thing. Sometimes all that shit's got to go out the window. If you've been chasing this woman, you try to be the boogeyman, jump out the fucking closet and scare her, or let's wake up from this dream that was supposed to be a nightmare. Okay. Who wants to see Savannah Marshall and Clarissa Shields at heavyweight? I'm not disinterested. I'm not disinterested, but it would have been a hell of a fight, or still could be a good fight. Okay, and this is how, if and or when Clarissa Shields beats Danielle Perkins, right? Perkins and Marshall. But what does that mean? Marshall is vacating. So if you want that fight, then vacate. Because it was nice to see it. She had a little glow on her. You know what I'm saying? But what the hell are you doing? You know what I'm saying? And I say that at least we know she wasn't locked up in a dungeon. She didn't have any hole on her face. She's not, you know what I'm saying, like in a dungeon or shit. Um, but she sure as hell ain't defending no IBF super middleweight title. So vacate it and move up to heavyweight. Hell, fight Hannah Gabriels. Can we get Hannah Gabriels and Savannah Marshall? You want to make your way up to heavyweight? Hannah Gabriels versus Savannah Marshall. And then Savannah Marshall says, hey, Clarissa Shields, knock, knock, I'm knocking on your door. Hey, let's do it that way. I just gave y'all motherfuckers an idea. Okay. Also, Michaela Mayer, Sandy Ryan, my idea is that the fight was going to be in the UK. Probably not. Doesn't look like it is. However, it may or may not be in Vegas in March. So keep your eyes out for that one. Mayer was trying to duck around. And again, I have to acknowledge Mayer is a world-class fighter. Um, Arguably one of the best fighters in women's boxing. Um, but I didn't like the fact that she was trying to like stall Ryan out, trying to impose on him. Maybe she might have been trying to take a pay cut just to fight Jonas and bail Jonas out from having to fight Price. Can you imagine some shit like that? I can imagine, like I do it for 150 or some trying to, you know what I mean, trying to undercut the sale or some bullshit. But nonetheless, let's hope that we get Ryan and Mayer too, because some things just need to be resolved. All right. Another interesting rumor or some sort of speculation that may or may not be happening, the return of Hall of Fame three-division world champion Holly Holm. Most people are going to remember that name from MMA. They're not going to understand. Again, she's a three-division world champion within boxing. She retired, if you will, with a record of 33, 2-3 with 9 KOs. She's won titles at 140, 147, and 154. And then she knocked that old girl, Ronda Rousey, in MMA. Hasn't fought in boxing in 9 years. The last MMA fight was in April of last year. I don't like that fight for Chantelle Cameron because I believe Chantelle Cameron is the kind of girl that likes standing in front of her opponents, and she can box, but she likes to bully and fight. I think the MMA mentality, it's gonna make it an unnecessary bloodbath, an unnecessary messy fight. And I'm not sure. Again, I believe Cameron is on track to fight Katie Taylor. So I don't know if this is something that, maybe Eddie Hearn cooked up to throw something in the game to distract Cameron from her ultimate goal, which is avenging that alleged loss to Katie Taylor. But just an interesting turn of events with Holly Holm maybe returning to boxing as a potential opponent for Chantelle Cameron. Just very interesting. Very friggin' interesting. All right. Now, fight week. Little bit, but a lot. Scotney-Motu. The fight has been delayed for a long time. It's been anticipated, but it is finally here this weekend. I believe it's on the Dalton Smith undercard. I'm not sure, but I'm sure that this fight is on Saturday. It's for the unified IBF, WBO, the ring lineal held by Scotney, and the IBO title held by Motu. Motu out of New Zealand, 20-0 with 8 KOs. Probably the biggest win is over Shannon O'Connell, shotgun Shannon O'Connell, former bantamweight title contender. And I believe she's also a contender at 1/8. Well, that is bantam. Did she fight Shanika Johnson? Who knows? But yeah, a reputable opponent nonetheless. But Ellie Scotney, she's got great wins over Ségolène Lefebvre, who is I believe the WBC silver 122 champ or WBC international. Cecilia Roman, the aforementioned Shanika Johnson, and Mary Romero. So Ellie Scotney certainly at 9-0. She's got some great wins in the bag and also undefeated. So this fight, now Motu, pressure fighter, heavy puncher, but she can box, obviously put it together. Scotney, I believe I've always compared her to, honestly, like Gary Russell Jr. I mean, just dancing in between raindrops, just yeah, rolling, countering, and the distance discrepancy or the discernment, being able to fight in those pockets. Scotney does so very well. Let's just see how she manages the power and aggression. Is she quick enough to evade what Motu may be returning fire? So it's just levels. You're gonna have to see this one to see how it turns out. And I'm very excited that this bout has finally arrived. All right. Also, you have Camila Zamora, 10-0 out of Mexico. She is a straw weight, 105 pounds, undefeated fighter, and she's in there against a fellow undefeated fighter in Yoselin Perez Lopez. So should be a pretty good 8-rounder. I believe both of these women trying to make some headway at 105. Really, it's kind of wide open, except for Jocasta Valle trying to reclaim and become undisputed. So light on the action, but there's plenty of information for you guys to process. All right, for you to do your research for, so you can have a better understanding of what's happening in and around the world of women's boxing, because women's boxing is boxing and boxing is this thing of ours. Thank you for joining me. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.